Hello everybody and welcome back. And in the previous tutorials we actually added some of the additional functions to our reverse shell, such as using a screenshot on target's monitor, also uploading downloading files from the internet, using a help command, changing directory, and so on. Now, as we can see right here, I just want to show you that in the help options I also added the Q command, since we didn't specify in the previous video. So we have the Q command that will actually exit the reverse shell. So make sure to add it right there, so the users, once they use, for example, your program, your server, know what they need to specify in order to actually exit the shell. So right now what we want to do is we want to add another big option to our reverse shell, which is the keylogger. But before we actually implement the keylogger in our backdoor itself, let us see how we can actually code one in a simple program using a library that Python actually has. Now that library is not installed in the Kali Linux, so we need to pip install it. I already did, but I will show you what you need to do. So let us exit this. What you need to do is type here pip install pynput. Now this will actually download it for you. As you can see right here, for me it says requirement already satisfied for the pynput library. So I will just open my Python 2 interpreter. So Python. And in order for us to actually import what we need, we just need to type here import pynput.keyboard. Why are we using the pynput.keyboard? Well, basically because we want to make a keylogger which will capture all the keystrokes from the target machine. So we use the .keyboard available option or function in the pynput library. Now, we can write a simple but not really useful keylogger in just a few functions. So let me just show you how we can do that. In order for us to actually make that keylogger, let us actually open a new file. We will use the same directory as this one, so we don't actually make a multiple directories for this. So let us nano keylogger 1.py. Since this is our prototype, we will add our standard path, so user bin python, and then we will import python or pynput.keyboard, since that's the library that we will use. Now, right here, let us actually set up a listener for our keyboard keystrokes. So in order to do that, you need to specify this function, so keyboard, and then after that dot listener, which will listen, or basically it will capture the keystrokes and it will process them in a certain function. So you just type here on underscore press equals, and then you need to specify the name of the function that we will use. So we will use process underscore keys. You can name this function anything you want. We didn't even code it yet. It will be a simple function for this first tutorial of keylogger, but let us just for now on code the rest of this. So the next thing we need to code is with keyboard underscore listener, and then two dots. Then make sure to tap the next thing that we will use, which will be dot join. Now this, let me just type here, so keyboard underscore listener dot join, and then two brackets. This will basically perform a listening on our keyboard, and now all we have to do is code a function that will actually do something with those recorded keystrokes. What we want to do in a keylogger for now on is just print those letters. So let's actually code our function that we specified right here, which is the process keys. So make sure to call it the same, process keys. And in that function what we want to actually input is the key itself. So what this will do, the listener will call that function and it will pass all the keys that were input into that function. And what we want to do with those keys is just print them. Print key. So basically when someone types in, this will listen for the incoming input in the keyboard, then it will send the key back to this function. And what this function will do is it will print the key itself. So let's see how this simple thing will work from now on. So let us actually Control-O this, ls chmod +x on the keylogger, and let us actually run the keylogger. Keyboard listener is not defined. Oh, make sure to actually call this the keyboard listener as well, so keyboard underscore listener. That's because I specify here listener and here use keyboard listener. So in order for this to work, you need to specify the same name for all of this, since this is the class that we used and actually delivered to the keyboard listener. We use the listening with the pynput library, and right now all we want to do is Ctrl-O save, and then we want to actually run this, so keylogger1.py. And you can see if you just press here enter, nothing will really happen, it will just run. But if you start typing in your keyboard some random letters, you will see it will start printing them out. What this means basically is that it actually records our keystrokes and just prints them at the same time at the screen. So you can see ASD, everything here is printed. Now this U right here stands for Unicode, we will have to remove that as well. And you can see right here, if I just press here some buttons on my keyboard that are not letters, you can see key tab, key enter, key space, key backspace, and so on. So we will need to actually change this a little bit, but for now on this is just a simple keylogger. Let us see what we can actually do with it, so just change it just a little bit. So let's open our keylogger1.py. We have the process function. This part right here we will not even change at all, since this is the standard part that we need to use in order to actually listen for keystrokes. What we want to change is the process keys function. So instead of actually printing the key, let us not print it right here, let us actually write the key to the file. Since if you, for example, think about it, if you actually just use this function on our backdoor, we do not have anything basically for printing. We do not have any use of the reverse shell printing the keys at the screen. We want to write those keys into a function or into a file, and then we can read from that file or send the contents of that file to the server, which can actually read the keystrokes. Then of course after that we would need to delete the file itself. So right now let us open a simple file, so with the regular command with open, and what we want to do right here is call the file anything we want, so let's call it keys.txt, or let's just call it keylogger so we know what it is, so keylogger.txt. And we want to actually use right here not the W or not the read, we want to use A option, which stands for append, because if we use write option, it will just rewrite every keystrokes before the current one. So we want to actually add the keystrokes one to another, so we can actually get a full sentence in that file, or basically whatever the target has typed in their keyboard. So let us call this as, for example, fin, and then we want to write the keys to that file. So we can see this function process, we can get the key to, we send the key to that function, and right now we want to write the string of this key to that function. Now let me just show you, so fin.write, and we want to write the string of this key. So let us save this, and let's see how this will do. If we just go right here, and we run our keylogger1.py, you can see now, even if I just type here hello world and press enter, nothing will actually be printed out as in the previous example of keylogger, as in the first example of keylogger. So let us close this right now, but if I just type here ls here, you can see we get a file called keylogger.txt. So let us cat that file to see what is in that file, so keylogger.txt, and you can see here we have hello world. Now it is a little bit ugly since it has this U option right here before every letter, so we will make sure to remove that in the next video. For now on, we actually saw how we can print out the keystrokes into a file, which is very useful for us. So what we actually want to do at the end is actually have a file that will be a hidden file, and by hidden I mean it will also be, for example, in the app data environment. While we use it, we want to capture the keystrokes in that file of the target, and then we want to send the keystrokes back to our server. And then at the end of using the reverse shell, we want to delete that file. So basically when someone specifies the Q option in our backdoor, it will delete the file out of that directory. So that would be about it for this introductory tutorial for the keylogger. This will be a much simpler program than our backdoor, so don't worry, this will not be that long. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye! Hello everybody, and welcome back to the second tutorial of our keylogger. And in the previous tutorial we coded this little program right here, which is keylogger1.py, which actually adds the keystrokes to the file called keylogger.txt. But we noticed once we actually run the file, so let's run it, keylogger1.py, and we just type here hello world, and we close the program. If we cat the keylogger.txt file that we received from it, it actually prints out these weird letters right here, with these apostrophes between each letter, and with this U between each letter. So what we want to do is actually get rid of that, and how will we do that? Well, let us actually make another program. Let's call it keylogger2.py, and let's actually make first the import. So import key pynput.keyboard, I believe. It should be something like this. Let's start off with the same thing, so same as the previous, keyboard_listener equals pynput.keyboard.listener. And we want to use the onPress function to our process keys. Then we use the same as before, so with keyboard_listener, we actually keyboard_listener and then join. And right now, since we set up our listener, right now we need to write a function that will actually get rid of the process. I don't need to see right here, so let me just delete one. Process_keys, and we implement key in that function. And right now what we want to actually do is we want to try and actually print the letters first without those apostrophes. So how will we do that? We can actually do that with using the key itself and basically making it a char. Now there is a simple thing in Python that we can use, which is key.char to do that. So let us see how that will look like. So let us create a variable called, for example, keys. And let's actually add nothing to it. Then use the same variable, which is global keys, where we will actually store the keys itself. So let us try to just type here keys equal keys plus the string of key.char. Now, in the previous video we basically did something similar, just we didn't have this .char right here. And all we want to do right now in order to check this out is actually print keys. So let's see what this will do. It will process the key to our function. Then since our keys is nothing, it will add to our variable keys, it will add the string of the key.char. Then it will print the keys. Now this will print the keys forever as long as we are running this program and typing something in the keyboard. So let us Control O this, then Control X, and let us run the keylogger. Let me just make it an executable. Keylogger2.py. And if we run it, whoops, let me just close this. If we run it once again and type here hello world, you will see that it will type the word hello first, and then we will get an error called attribute error. Now the reason why we got this attribute error is because our program worked perfectly while we were typing the letters, but as soon as I went to actually type the spacebar, it said key object has no attribute char, since the spacebar key actually doesn't have any character that actually represents it. And that's why we get this error. So let me show you once again. So if I run keylogger.py and just type here hello and then space, we once again get the same error. So what we want to do right now is actually implement a try and accept function that will actually use this error as an accept. So we want to copy this error since this is the error that we will get for every basically key that we type in, such as spacebar, delete, backspace, enter, and so on. All of those keys that actually do not have a character representation. So we want to actually implement that in our keylogger as well. But what is good about our second keylogger is that you saw that we do not have the weird apostrophe between each letter anymore. We just get the basic output of the string itself. Now we also need a little bit more work on this, so don't worry, this is not the ending project. Let us, before we do that, run the try. So we will try to actually add the character version of the key to our variable keys. And in case that doesn't work, that means that the character or the key that we typed in doesn't really have the character representation. So we want to use except and then the error that we copied, which is attribute error. And then we press 2 dots, and what we want to do is basically run an if-else statement right here. So, for example, we know that in our previous video, let me just save this and leave it like this for now, just to show you. If I copy the keylogger.txt from our previous video, you can see that once I press space, it actually prints key.space. So we can use this, for example, to process the key and add if key equals key.space, then we will add something to the keys variable. So let us see what I actually mean by that. So let us go back to our keylogger2.py, and if I just type here if key equals key.space, which is what prints out when in our previous tutorial once we actually type spacebar. But let's see what we can actually add to our keys variable. So keys would be everything previously, so keys, and then plus what the best thing for spacebar is basically just an empty space. So make sure to type double quotes and then empty space and then another double quotes. So this will add an actual spacebar between every time we actually print space. So let us see how this will work. Let us save this and let us run it once again. So hello, and if I just type here space and type here world, you can see it prints out hello world right here. We didn't get the error for no character for space, it only printed the empty spot right here. But we also need to do the same for every other character that doesn't have the implementation of, or basically the representation in character wise. So what we want to do right here is, for now on, just type here else for any other character that doesn't have the string key char. We want to type here keys equal keys plus and then empty space, so we can actually make distance between regular characters and, for example, an enter, a backspace, a delete, a tab, and shift, and so on. And we want to add the string of that key. Now, as I said before, we are here using only the key and not key.char, since if we actually specify the key.char, we would get the error once again. You want to specify only the string of the key for every basically button on your keyboard that doesn't have the character representation. So, and after that we also want to add an empty space so we can actually differentiate them. And let us save this and see how this will actually work. So if I control X to exit, keylogger2.py, and if I just type here hello world, enter, key tab, shift, backspace, you can see it prints all of these right here. So what we want to do is actually add, even for these other things, we want to add basically the representation in characters for all of them. Now for shift we can actually make the enter to be a new line, we can make the key.tab to be an empty space as well. Backspace could delete, but we can also make that an empty space as well, or we can just leave it like this so we know what the user has typed. So key enter basically means the user typed enter, tab means tab, and so on. Well, let me just close this program right here. And that would be about it for this tutorial. We will continue actually making our keylogger better in the next tutorial, and then we will actually implement it in our backdoor. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye! Hello everybody, and welcome back to the third part of the keylogger tutorial making. Right now, what we want to actually do is, you might have noticed that once we actually run our keylogger2.py and we type something in, it actually prints out as we type. Now, for example, if we do not want to get this printed out as we type, we actually want to either print this every 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or we actually want to write this to a file at any certain period of time. So, first of all, let us see how we can print this every 5 seconds as well. So let us nano our keylogger2.py, and let us add a function that will actually print this every 10 seconds, for example. So we type in our keyboard, and every 10 seconds in our terminal we will get printed out everything that we have typed in our keyboard. So in order to do that, let us make a function called, for example, define print. We do not specify anything in that function since we actually don't need to. And what we want to use is the global variable that we use, so the global variable keys, which is this variable right here. And all we want to do right here is print keys. Whoops, keys. Now, basically, what this will do is if we call it, it will basically perform the same as in the previous tutorial. Now, in order for us to actually make it run every 10 seconds, we need to import a library which we use for the first time for now, which is called threading. So just go up here and below your pynput keyboard, import threading. Now basically what threading allows us is, in this case, to use a function called timer, which will actually perform the function we specify in the brackets every certain period of time that we also specify in the brackets. So let us see what I actually mean. So we print the keys, we print our current state of the keys, we then want to set the keys to be nothing, since we do not want to print every time everything that we type. For example, if we type hello world in the first 10 seconds, we do not want to type we do not want to get the hello world prompted in the second 10 seconds as well. Now I will show you what I mean in a second, but before we do that, let us set a variable called timer on which we will use to actually use our threading library and actually use our print function in order to make it run every 10 seconds. So timer equals, and now we use this syntax right here, so threading dot timer, and then here in the brackets we need to specify two things: which function we want to use and at how much period of time we want to run it. So we want to run it every 10 seconds, then press comma, and then which function we want to use. We want to use the print function. So basically what this means is, as I said, it will run the print function every 10 seconds, and what print function does is it just prints the keys. So all we have to do right now is type here timer.start, and we also, in order for all of this to work, what we coded right here, we want to actually call the print function somewhere. Now we will call the print function in our with keyboard listener, and right after it we want to call the print function right here. What this will do is it will call the print function, it will go right here, then this will start the timer, which is threading, which allows us, basically this threading right here and this library right here allows us to run the function while the rest of the code is running itself. So what this does, it creates a separate thread for this function which will run every 10 seconds, and it allows us that at the same time our keyboard listener will run and listen for the input keystrokes. So all we have to do right now is actually delete the print keys, since we do not need it here anymore. We created a function that will actually print the keys. And let us save this, and let's see how this actually works. If we run the keylogger 2.py, we can get the invalid syntax, so let us see what actually invalid is right here. where we actually specified something wrong. Print keys, global keys. Let's see what actually is wrong here. Can't really seem to see it. Print log, so we use the global keys function, the global keys variable, okay. We print the keys, then we set them to be nothing, and then we call our function. Import threading, so this all should be good. Let me just check it out. It says invalid syntax in this function right here. So something right here is not coded properly. This global keys is good. Maybe the invalid syntax is because we actually use the name print for our function, which is already something that is in Python. So let us change this to report. We also use the report right here. We also need to call the report here. Or actually right here we actually want to use the print. Yeah, that was actually the problem, since here in this statement right here the code didn't know if we actually call the function or use the print inbuilt in order to print all the keys. That's why we got the incorrect syntax. So make sure to rename your function to anything else you want except for the print option, except for the print syntax. Make sure to rename it here as well, and also make sure to rename it here as well. So let us go down here, delete this, and type here report. Then Ctrl-O to save this, and let us see how this will run right now. As we can see, we don't see anything. If I just type here hello world, we can see right after 5 seconds, which it changed from 10 to 5, we actually get printed out hello world. And now in the next 5 seconds we will not get printed out the hello world, since we set the keys variable to be nothing right after we print it. And right now if I just type here what is up, question mark, in the 5 seconds we will get what is up, key shift, and then question mark. So our code works well. Let us nano it and let us add a few more things to it. So what we managed to do is actually print every 5 seconds our keystrokes. And right now what we want to do is actually implement some of the keys that we also need to use right here. So this statement right here will become the else if statement. So elif, for example, or let's leave this to be else, so for any other key, and we will code the elif right here. So right after this, elif key, so our key equals to key.enter. For example, since enter is something that people press a lot, we want to add nothing to the file, to the keys actually. So what we want to actually do is type here keys equals keys plus nothing. So same thing that we did in the previous video, I believe we specified something like that. So right now keys equal keys plus nothing. We don't specify any space right here, we just leave it like this. Then we run the another elif statement for example, key equals key dot right, which is for the right arrow on our keyboard. So what we want to do right now, we want to add keys, that is the name of our variable, so don't confuse this. I should have named it something else, since keys and key could be confusing, but it doesn't really matter right now. Make sure to recognize that this key is something that we get from our function, and that keys is the variable that we actually created. So keys equals same as before, so keys plus nothing. We want to do that for all of the arrows, so else if key equals key dot left, keys equal keys nothing, else if key equals key dot up, keys equal keys plus nothing. And all we have to do is for the down arrow, so key equals key dot down, keys equal keys plus nothing. So what we specified right here is if someone presses the arrows, the space, the enter, basically it will not print those characters. So all we have to do right now is actually test for this if it works. So let us run the program and let us use some of the arrows right here. Let's use hello. You can see that we only get printed out hello. We don't get printed out enter, we don't get printed out upper, lower, left and right arrow, so we only get printed out the string that we type. So let's just use hello world. We can see we get printed out a little bit mistyped right here, but doesn't matter, we get printed out hello world. Now let's see, now that we created this, let's see in the next video how we can actually write this to a file and implement it finally in our backdoor. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye! Hello everybody and welcome back, and right now let us see how we can write our keystrokes to file every 20 seconds, for example. Or not really write, we actually want to append the keystrokes to that file. So let us see how we can actually do that. Let us make a final project which will be keylogger.py. So let us first copy everything from the keylogger2.py, select everything. Yeah, we actually can select everything, so, or I'm not really sure if this will work. Control A doesn't work. Basically we'll have to copy it from 2 times. Or you know what, we can actually just simply rename keylogger2.py into keylogger.py, which is a much simpler solution. So let's first delete the keylogger.txt and delete the keylogger1.py. Now let us nano our keylogger1.py, and right here what we want to do is basically just edit the report function, since that is the function that actually sends us back the actual keystrokes to our terminal. So let's first of all see what we need to do. So basically let us think about it. We want to write this to a file, so we do not want to print the keys. We want to type here with open, but not right here, since that would be something that we actually don't want to do. We don't want to open our file every 20 seconds. What we want to do to our file is actually write to it every 20 seconds. So let us see how we can do that. We need to open the file. Let's see where actually we can open it. So we can open it in the process keys, I believe. So with open, well, let's not open it right here. Let us actually open it out of the entire program right here. So before we actually run any of this, we want to open the file. So with open, and we want to call it the, for example, test or keylogger.txt as been before. We want to open it as the append and open it as fin, for example. And then what we want to do after that is actually run this function right here. Both of these functions. So let me see, let me think about this. This should actually work. If we run the report function, it will run it every 5 seconds, and in our report function we will actually try to, for example, keys equal nothing, or we actually want to do it before, so fin.write, and want to do is write keys. Then we set keys to be nothing. Then we call the function every 5 seconds, which we will change to 10 seconds. And we also listen for the listener of our keyboard. So let us see if this will actually work. So Control O. Let me just check this out. Keylogger.py, hello world, what is happening? Enter, we wait, for example, for 10 seconds, we can see nothing get printed out right here. But if we close this program, we have keylogger.txt that doesn't have anything, which isn't really good. So let us see what we need to fix right here. Process keys, we set the report to be good, timer right here, keyboard listener. So maybe we actually have to wait a little bit longer, I'm not really sure. Let us actually run this once again. Hello. And let's wait for 10 seconds to pass, maybe we didn't wait long enough. If this basically doesn't work, we'll take another approach to this. So 10 seconds passed for sure, so let us close this, get the keylogger.txt, and nothing there, so something is wrong. Let's see how we can fix it. So nano keylogger.py. Right here, what we want to actually do is, for example, instead of opening the file right here, let us open it in our process keys function. So we go this one back, and instead of actually doing this, let's actually write something like this. So right here, we do not want this, we do not want to print, so let us remove that. And right here, before the global keys, we want to use the with open, and then let's open, for example, keylogger.txt. Open it for the append as always, as fin, let's call it like that. And what we want to do is basically write the string of that key. So what we actually want to do right here is tab this, all of this, to our file. Let us see if this will work. If we tab every line by one, so it belongs to our with open statement right here. Let's see if this will work. So keys and this as well, and then down here we specify fin write keys. Let's see if this will actually work. Set this to be 5 seconds so we don't have to wait 10. Save this. Now this, I have no idea if this will work. We will have to try it out. Attribute error. Fin write keys. Let us see what is wrong. Okay, we probably can't really do this right here. But what we can do is actually perform the print statement or the write statement right here. So let us see if only one of these will work. So print, or not print, fin.write keys. Now I'm not really sure what the error was, but let's type here hello world once again, press enter, wait for 5 seconds, and we will close this program in order to see if anything has been written to our keylogger.txt. So cat keylogger.txt, and here we have hello world. But something right here doesn't really work, since we got hello world printed out here 5 times or something like that. That means that we actually get the keylogger to be specified wrongly, so it opens this file every time and then it writes our keys every time. But what if we do it like this? So let us get everything back as before. Now sometimes it's good to experiment with things like this, and this is how you actually learn to code. This part right here we can delete. This is how you will actually learn to make your own programs, by experimenting with some of this stuff. So sometimes some function will not work, sometimes something will not be specified correctly, so you have to experiment in order to get it right next time. So right here we want to actually open the file right here. After the keys, let us actually open it normally. So fin equals open keylogger .txt. We open it for the appending, and then we actually right here, where we actually can use these global keys as a first line so we don't get confused. So copy it right here, and then fin open for the appending, and then fin.write keys. We write the keys, and then at the end we want to actually close the program, or the file, pardon me. So fin.close is what we use to close the file, and let us see if this will actually work right now. We run this, hello world, enter. We wait for 5 seconds in order to see what we get printed out in our file. So I believe 5 seconds has passed, so we Control X this, so right here. Then we check out the txt, and we can see we finally got this to work. We only got printed the hello world in our file. We had 2 errors. First time we didn't get printed anything, then we copied to another function, then we got printed out hello world like 5 times, and right now, oops, not reverse shell, everything works well. So what we did, this function should stay the same, so as before, all we have to do is actually add the opening in the report function, which will open every 5 seconds this file, then it will write the keys, it will set the variable keys to be nothing, and then it will close the file. Then it will call this function once again in next 5 seconds. So let us see if now we run this for a few more seconds. So first we write hello world in first 5 seconds, and in the next 5 seconds we will write something else, so we can see if it adds it twice or not. So after 5 seconds, what are you doing right now? Question mark. Then we press enter, and for example type here not much, what about you? Press enter, then we can close this and see what we got printed out in our keylogger.txt. So hello world, what are you doing right now? Not much. Now what I am confused about is this part right here. So it did print out hello world, what are you doing twice, or basically just the hello world. So let me see why did it do that. So let's run this once again, hello, which will be the first 5 seconds, and then in the next 5 seconds we will type world, and in the next 5 seconds we will type, for example, what. So world, then we wait for a few seconds, and we will type here what, so we can see how many times it printed out each word. And let's wait another 5 seconds before we actually close this. So hello world what. And let's right now close this and get our keylogger.txt. Hello world, what are you doing right now? Okay, oh yes, so we actually open this file every time, so we actually append to it. What we want to do now, as we can see, it printed out everything correctly, so hello world what. Now what this part right here, which I was confused about, is because we actually need to delete the file every time we close our keylogger. So right now it opens this keylogger.txt every time, and it appends every time we use this keylogger. We will also get in our keylogger this part right here. So this is good once you actually want to, for example, write everything to a file and then get back everything that the user has typed, which we actually want to do. But we may need to make sure that right after we close the reverse shell, we actually delete the keylogger.txt file. So what we need to do is basically nothing at the moment, but once we code this in the next video in our reverse shell, we need to delete this file every time we actually close our reverse shell. So what we will do that basically at the end of the program. We will just import the OS and then os.remove keylogger.txt. So that would be about it in this video. We will have to specify a few other options in the next video, and then we will be good to go. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye!